Chapter 4100. If someone put the medicine through the spout of the teapot, the powder would not flow into the teapot. All they needed to do was to replace the spout with a new one. That's why it's very simple. Replace the teapot spout with a clean one, and install the previous one into the teapot in cubicle number 3. The scene on Ji Changqiu's side was relayed to Tang Guo by the system. She was not surprised by the design of the teapot. After all, the ancients had a natural talent in this area. All kinds of ingenious objects were beyond the comprehension of modern people. She just did not expect that Ji Changqiu's subordinates were all talents. Kidnapping Ji Changqiu back to Beiwang country was equivalent to kidnapping a bunch of talents. This was a good deal. Dear host, the waiter is here. The Prime Minister's son also ordered me to inform you about this matter. Okay. Sure enough, when the waiter arrived, he was already carrying a new spout of the teapot. He also briefly explained that the guest in the third cubicle had drugged her teapot. He also stated that he was one of the Prime Minister's son's men. Red Date almost fainted from anger. He almost rushed over and slashed Su Ruoyu. Let me see the spout, Tang Guo said. The waiter did not hesitate. Tang Guo held the spout of the teapot and really looked at it. There was indeed a small pill inside. Based on Su Ruoyu's pharmaceutical skills, this pill would dissolve in water when it came in contact with it. It was colorless and tasteless. Has the Prime Minister's son arranged for you to deal with it? The waiter said. It has been arranged. Tang Guo returned the spout to the waiter. The waiter understood and left without saying anything else. After a while, the waiter came back with a new pot of tea. It was Su Ruoyu's favorite flower tea. The waiter fiddled with the spout. The teapot now looked no different from a normal one. Those who did not know the technique would not understand the mystery behind it. The pill had already dissolved in the tea. The waiter could not help but take a deep breath when he smelled the aroma from the spout. Why was it so fragrant? The waiter remembered what was going on with the flower tea and quickly held his breath. Could it be that this aroma was trying to lure people to drink it? He sniffed carefully again. The aroma was indeed the aroma of flower tea and nothing else. The waiter was still very nervous. It was so fragrant. Su Ruoyu wouldn't suspect anything, right? He knocked on the door of the small cubicle and brought the tea in. When the waiter walked to the door, Su Ruoyu smelled the scented tea and was attracted by it. He was just short of saying that it smelled good. The waiter found it strange that Su Ruoyu didn't seem to have any doubts about the flower tea, and even looked forward to it. Could it be that Su Ruoyu's medicine was not the cause of the fragrance of the flower tea? Otherwise, why would Su Ruoyu urge him to put down the teapot with her eyes? Sir, please have some tea. The flower tea in your tea house seems to be better than the ones before? Su Ruoyu asked with some expectation. This fragrance was too tempting. She couldn't wait to take a sip. The waiter's body was a little stiff, but his expression was normal. This is a treasure of the tea house. It's not often taken out. Oh, it seems that I'm very lucky today. Su Ruoyu sniffed. You can leave. The waiter's heart quickly jumped. He walked out of the small cubicle and suddenly had a thought. The fragrance of the tea was not from Su Ruoyu's medicine, but from the Ding princess consort. Other than him and Su Ruoyu, only the Ding princess consort had touched the spout of the teapot. Chapter 4101. Heavens! Young master said that he was afraid that Princess Ding would fall into the trap, and asked them to keep an eye on her. But he didn't know that Princess Ding was very smart and wouldn't fall for it. Host, Su Ruoyu isn't in a hurry to drink the flower tea. She's checking if there's poison in the flower tea. It seems like I guessed right. She should have watched a lot of house dramas. She's also quite skilled in medicine. In a place like a tea house, it's better to check. It's a pity that host is one step ahead of her. You made something to cover up the poison in the tea. With Su Ruoyu's current skills, she won't be able to find anything, unless she really learned all the skills of the medical sage. This is all thanks to Brother Ziyun. It was too easy for an alchemist from the celestial world to make such a small thing. Ziyun was now a famous alchemist in the celestial world. It was hard to ask for even one pill. People in the celestial world would never know that this bad-tempered alchemist, who wouldn't easily refine pills for others, and would charge extremely high prices. If someone asked him to refine pills for them, he would never reject them. He would even strive for perfection. What he refined were very ordinary things. Some of the materials were from the mortal world and didn't contain any celestial qi. Surui didn't find anything. She's enjoying the tea. The system broadcasted Surui's actions in real time. On the other side, Ji Changqiu was also curious if Surui would drink the tea. That medicine was Surui's. Although it didn't have any taste, it was hard to guarantee that Surui wouldn't notice it. Young master, there's no movement over there. Surui probably doesn't know that there's something wrong with the tea. It's strange that she didn't notice anything wrong with the medicine she made. Go out and watch. If there's any movement, come in and tell me. Yes. The tea was too delicious. Surui drank 3 cups in a row before stopping. Seeing that there wasn't much tea left in the teapot, she planned to go out and call the waiter to add more water. Just as she walked out of the small room, Surui felt dizzy. She seemed to have forgotten what she was going to do and laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. Surui's laughter attracted the attention of a few people, especially those who were sitting at the back of the hall. They turned around and saw Surui's body. Time to take a bath. Time to take a bath. She tore off her veil and began to undress her clothes, revealing a dazed expression. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, she did not stop undressing. Surui's actions were too surprising. The people who were listening attentively were pulled aside by the people next to them. When they turned around, they saw Surui smiling foolishly while undressing herself. Come on. It's time to take a bath. Tanggua, who was sitting in the cubicle, heard about the commotion outside from the system, and her expression turned sour. If it was another woman, she would not have been able to escape Surui's scheme. Making this kind of pill, not to mention in ancient times, even in modern times with open minds, would be a blow to a woman. To take off his clothes in public and say that he wanted to take a bath, even if he were to go mad, he would still be mocked for a while. Moreover, she was Ding Wangfei, the princess of Beiwang country. Surui was really vicious to embarrass Beiwang country in the process. Young master, it's better if you don't go out first. I'm afraid you'll dirty your eyes. Ji Changqiu sneered. Surui, good move. If this young master didn't know that she was a bad person, the one who suffered today would be Princess Yuan. Peak. Chapter 4102. How much hatred do you have for you to do such a stupid and vicious thing? Young master, even without you, Princess Ding would still be fine. Ji Changqiu was puzzled. Why? The servant told him the truth from the waiter, and Ji Changqiu was silent for a moment. As expected of Princess Yuan, your intelligence is unparalleled. The servant. Helian Feng knew that Surui had gone out to listen to books and did not stop her. As long as Surui did not run away, she could go anywhere she wanted. Even the servants who followed her stayed outside the tea house and did not follow her in. However, they heard a woman taking off her clothes in public, jumping and laughing while saying that she wanted to take a bath. Someone recognized that this was Surui. The 2 servants who were assigned to watch Surui felt that something was wrong and quickly rushed in to take a look. Sure enough, they found that Surui had almost taken off her clothes. The people in the tea house covered their faces and came out. The crazy woman inside was too immoral. The people in the tea house covered their faces and came out. This attracted the curiosity of the people on the street, and they rushed in to take a look. Those who were thin-skinned ran out again and spat into the tea house. Shameful. Those who were thick-skinned stared inside, and even whistled at Surui. They were very indecent, and attracted a few young masters. The 2 servants who were in charge of watching Surui went in, and saw the scene. They subconsciously turned their backs. However, they quickly went up and picked up the clothes. They wrapped Surui up and carried her away. You are the eldest young miss of the Su family. You are the one who is engaged and hooked up with Prince Ding. I heard that after the matter was exposed, she did not return to the Su family. Lord Su was furious. Lord Su even said that if she did not return home, he would treat it as if he did not have a daughter and chase her out of the Su family. So it's her. No wonder she is so shameless. Could it be that something happened that made her go crazy? Could it be that Prince Ding abandoned her? At this moment, Tang Gua and Ji Changqiu came out of the small room at the same time. Ji Changqiu nodded at her and signaled the servant beside him to clean up the flower tea inside. Tang Gua stopped him and took out a medicine bottle. Add some of this in. Don't worry about the rest. The attendant hesitated, but in the end, with Ji Changqiu's affirmation, he quickly walked in with Tang Gua's medicine bottle. Coincidentally, Tang Gua and the others were passing by. The people below had already dispersed, and those who were listening to their books were still listening to their books. No one noticed this. When they walked past the third cubicle, the follower had already completed his task. He pretended that he did not know anything and followed Ji Changqiu down. Tang Gua looked at the shopkeeper of the tea house with pity. She thought to herself, why don't I write some stories for the shopkeeper later? This place was really not bad. It could not be ruined because of Su Ruoyu. After this, Helian Feng would definitely investigate this place. However, there would definitely be no problem with the tea, and Helian Feng wouldn't be able to find anything. If he wanted to use the tea house as an excuse, he would have to see if his brothers would agree or not. Where was Helian Feng today? He was in the palace, and was called in by the emperor. At this moment, he still did not know about Su Ruoyu's bath dance in the tea house. Old Third, this matter is too outrageous. The emperor was blaming Helian Feng for hooking up with Su Ruoyu before the engagement was annulled. Imperial Father, I already wanted to help you annul the engagement. You are also made it clear to me that she has no intention of marrying the Prime Minister's son. The emperor rubbed his forehead. Isn't the engagement not annulled? How are you going to solve this matter? I heard that the daughter of the Su family is still in your other residence? The Peak. Chapter 4103. Helian Feng also had a headache about how to deal with Su Ruoyu's matter. The situation outside was already like that, and the Prime Minister went to the Su family to break off the engagement. If Su Ruoyu was willing to enter the prince's mansion as a concubine, she would be talked about for a while, and would soon forget about it. However, Helian Feng was not annoyed that Su Ruoyu was unwilling to be a concubine. Instead, he felt that Tang Gua's existence was blocking his way. If it was not for that stupid woman in the prince's mansion, Yuer would not have suffered such grievances. Helian Feng put all the blame on Tang Gua. I will deal with these small matters. The emperor gave a faint hum, and did not say anything more. You can deal with it however you want. Don't let Princess Ding suffer. Third brother, you should know her identity. The emperor did not care much about a daughter of the Su family. He asked Helian Feng to come over this time to test him. Besides, he had heard about Master Zhang's story, but he did not mention it to Helian Feng. He was still not sure if Helian Feng's erectile dysfunction was real or fake. If it was fake, why would he pretend to be erectile dysfunction? If it was real erectile dysfunction, why did it work on the daughter of the Su family? Would the daughter of the Su family be like the monster in Master Zhang's story? Did she have some skills? He heard that the daughter of the Su family had good medical skills. However, he had sent someone to investigate, and found that the daughter of the Su family was raised in another courtyard. The Su family did not even put in any effort. How could they hire a teacher for her? With such exquisite medical skills, even the imperial physicians in the palace might not be able to compete with him. The emperor was also tempted by Su Ruoyu's medical skills. However, this woman was not ordinary. She was full of doubts. He would not allow her to enter the palace before he was sure whether she was a human or a ghost, and whether he could control her. Seeing that Helian Feng did not intend to give up on Su Ruoyu, the emperor was relieved. He hoped that his third son could test Su Ruoyu properly, and see what cards she had. In the end, the emperor treated Helian Feng as the stone to ask for directions. Helian Feng saw that the emperor only warned him, and did not get angry. He also understood that this was a small matter in the emperor's eyes. The reason why he asked him to enter the palace was probably because he was afraid that he would do something to Tang Gua, because of Su Ruoyu. After all, the other party was the princess of Beiwang country, which involved the friendship between the two countries. After leaving the palace, Helian Feng secretly thought that if this princess of Beiwang country couldn't hold back her loneliness, and did something embarrassing, Beiwang country wouldn't be able to say anything wrong, right? Helian Feng, who had already made up his mind, felt slightly better. However, before he could heave a sigh of relief, he heard that something had happened to Su Ruoyu. After hearing the ins and outs of the matter, Helian Feng felt unwell all over. Su Ruoyu was behaving foolishly in the tea house. She even took off her clothes in front of everyone. Helian Feng no longer cared to what extent she had stripped. Now the entire capital knew that the crazy woman was Su Ruoyu. Helian Feng felt his face turn slightly red as a wisp of anger rose in his heart. Su Ruoyu was his woman, yet she was surrounded by so many people. The two subordinates shrunk their necks, afraid of being punished by their master. But no matter how much he shrunk his neck, the punishment was inevitable. They did not dare to reveal the extent to which Su Ruoyu had taken off her clothes. If they did, their master would dig out their eyes. Now that they recalled the scene they saw in the tea house, their faces turned slightly red. Su Ruoyu drank spiritual spring water every day, so her skin was naturally good. The two could not forget the scene they saw earlier. They hurriedly buried their heads, afraid that Helian Feng would see through them. The Peak. Chapter 4104. Helian Feng could not accept this kind of thing. If it was another woman, he would definitely lose interest instantly. Only he could look at his woman. However, this woman was Su Ruoyu, the only woman who could let him be a man. He looked at Su Ruoyu with anger, and at the same time ordered someone to check the situation at the tea house. After the incident, the two men took Su Ruoyu away. Not long after, one of them returned and ordered the people in the tea house not to touch the small cubicle Su Ruoyu had been in. After all, they were Helian Feng's men. They still had this awareness. Su Ruoyu had already woken up. It had been 4 hours since the incident. The effect of the drug itself lasted for 2 hours. Su Ruoyu, who had woken up, was locked in the room. The two men were afraid that she would cause trouble again and ordered to lock her in the room. After waking up, Su Ruoyu found that all her clothes were gone. She was a little dumbfounded. Then she found that her clothes had fallen to the ground one by one. What made her more frightened was that she remembered what had happened before. Especially when she was performing in the tea house, Su Ruoyu could not hold back and fainted. However, she did not faint for long. When she woke up again, she screamed in the room as if she had gone crazy. The people guarding outside did not know if she was done with her madness, and did not dare to go in to see. When Helian Feng entered the room, he saw Su Ruoyu wrapped in clothes casually and huddled in the corner. She looked very pitiful. Helian Feng felt some pity in his heart. He walked over and hugged her to comfort her. No matter who did this to you, I will definitely investigate this matter. I will not let anyone go. Su Ruoyu was very scared. She had clearly thrown the drug into Tangua's teapot. How could she drink it? She did not dare to say that she had drugged Tangua. She did not suspect that Tangua had done this. The other party did not know that she would do it. Then who was the person who had done this to her? The ancient times were indeed very scary. Although this matter was a bit of a blow to Su Ruoyu, she was not an authentic ancient person. Apart from the anger in her heart, and wanting to know who had done this to her, she would not be like the ancient women who were desperate because of this. The rumors outside don't sound good. Don't go out for a while, Helian Feng said again. In his heart, he felt that it was better for Su Ruoyu not to show up for a while. Things were getting more and more troublesome. He felt that if he wanted to let Su Ruoyu into the house in the future, he would have to change her identity. Your Highness, there's news from the Su family. It's about Miss Su. A subordinate's voice came from outside. Helian Feng didn't pay much attention to it and casually asked, "What news?" The Su family has decided to expel Miss Su from the Su family. In the future, her life and reputation will have nothing to do with the Su family. It seemed that what happened today made Lord Su unable to accept Su Ruoyu as his daughter. If he allowed Su Ruoyu to carry the title of the Su family's daughter, none of the Su family's daughters would be able to get married. Hearing this, Su Ruoyu gritted her teeth. She had never cared about the Su family. Helian Feng saw that her expression wasn't good, so he quickly comforted her, saying that she could just stay here. The Su family was so unjust to her. They would regret it in the future. Su Ruoyu thought the same. One day, the Su family would regret it. She was no longer part of the Su family. She, Su Ruoyu, would not be restrained and would be more free. Of course, Helian Feng's men didn't find anything in the tea house. The Peak. Chapter 4105. Even the tea that Su Ruoyu drank at that time was checked, and there was no problem at all. Su Ruoyu did not believe in those people's abilities, and had someone bring the teapot back. She studied it carefully, but did not find anything, and was very discouraged. Then how did she get poisoned? It couldn't be that someone put the medicine in her mouth, right? This matter made Su Ruoyu more obedient. Now that the entire capital was spreading the news of her going crazy that day, she did not dare to go out and show her face. Even if she wore a veil, she was afraid of being recognized by people familiar with her. She simply did not go out, and peacefully made medicine in Helian Feng's house. She helped Helian Feng make all kinds of medicine. She knew that Helian Feng would lead troops to war when the borders were unstable. She thought of the backwardness of this era, and helped make hemostatic medicine and anti-inflammatory medicine. Su Ruoyu's ability made Helian Feng see her in a new light. He felt that Su Ruoyu was not ordinary, and that only he could have this kind of woman. Everything in the outside world seemed to be unable to do anything to them. The feelings between the two of them warmed up. Helian Feng felt that some things should be brought to the light. Let people find out that Ding Wangfei was unwilling to be left out, and was looking for a man. Not only must the people in Ding Wangfu know, other people must know as well. If other people knew, this matter could not be hidden. They could remove the title of Ding Wangfei, and give you a position. Helian Feng was inwardly calculating what date would be more suitable. Usually, he did not even want to look at Tanggua. If he suddenly went over, it would attract suspicion. Tanggua and her maidservant were both skilled in martial arts. They weren't weak women. Finally, Helian Feng thought of a good time, the annual palace banquet. He also had spies in the palace. When the time came, he only needed to let these spies do the job. But this medicine, he still needed Su Ruoyu to make it for him. What kind of medicine does Wang Ye want? Su Ruoyu asked. Helian Feng. It would be best if it is colorless and odorless. Something that can make people who know martial arts faint instantly. I can make this. Su Ruoyu did not know what Helian Feng wanted to do with it. Since Helian Feng needed it now, she would make it for him. Not to mention other things. With Helian Feng as a protective umbrella, it was indeed convenient for her to do anything. Even if she did not enter the Wangfu, she lived a respectable life. It was much better than the empty room in the Wangfu. Helian Feng treated her well, so she didn't mind sharing some good things with him. No matter what, he was her man. If Helian Feng could become the emperor in the future, then she would be able to do whatever she wanted in Daki. Of course, after Helian Feng became the emperor, he could forget about taking her into his harem. She didn't care about the harem, that place where people were eaten alive. At that time, if Helian Feng didn't agree to her request, she had plenty of ways to leave. If Helian Feng gave her freedom, she really didn't mind staying in Daki for the rest of her life, and getting more good things for him. The premise was, of course, that he couldn't touch other women. If he touched another woman, then don't blame her for being heartless. Dear host, Helian Feng asked Su Ruoyu to make a colorless and odorless medicine that can make people with martial arts unconscious instantly. I suspect that this is for you. Yes, continue to keep an eye on him. Also, Madam Host, Helian Feng has given Su Ruoyu's hemostatic medicine and anti-inflammatory medicine to the emperor. The emperor was very happy that Helian Feng had contributed the recipe. He greatly praised him and rewarded him with many items. The emperor also said that he wanted to summon that amazing miracle doctor into the palace. Helian Feng had no choice but to admit that it was Su Ruoyu. Chapter 4106. Actually, the emperor guessed that it was Su Ruoyu who made the medicine. He just wanted to see Helian Feng's reaction. The emperor seemed to be quite satisfied that Helian Feng was able to coax Su Ruoyu. However, he secretly arranged for many people to watch over the two of them. It seems that he is still worried. It's normal. In the face of benefits, no matter who Su Ruoyu is, or what shameful things she has done in the past, the emperor is very happy to have someone like her around, as long as they can control her. Also, the Prime Minister's son has been doing well recently. From time to time, he would cause trouble for Helian Feng. In addition, he often asks his subordinates about the host's situation. It seems that he is more worried about your situation. The system said secretly. He often sighs that it's a pity that such a woman like Princess Yuan would be matched with that pig Helian Feng. It's a pity that the heavens are blind. How could Helian Feng encounter such a good thing? Tanghua. The host hasn't been listening to stories recently. The Prime Minister's son asks his subordinates every day why you haven't been listening to stories. Is it because the stories are not fresh anymore? Oh right. After the Prime Minister's son heard Master Zhang's story last time, he already suspects that Helian Feng is impotent. Is he so fond of Su Ruoyu? Because only Su Ruoyu can make him a real man? Recently, he has been investigating this matter. Tanghua was more interested in this. Has he found anything? Not yet. There are only 2 people who know about this. The Emperor only knows about it because he has planted too many spies. The Prime Minister's son is not Helian Feng's father. This matter is not easy to investigate, but he is quite patient. It seems that I have to make some arrangements. System. Why do I feel that today's weather is very cool? It's strange that a system can sense something is wrong. Princess. Red Date was very curious. What did Tanghua want her to do when she was called into the room? A while ago, people from the Beiwang country came and disguised themselves as ordinary merchants. They bought a house in the capital and stayed there. In other words, Tanghua was no longer available. Just yesterday, Red Date's younger sister, Qing Zhao, came with her husband and also moved into the house. The reason why she did not enter the palace was because Tanghua believed that it would not attract the attention of the emperor and Helian Feng, so that Helian Feng would not dare to make a move. Go and arrange for Helian Feng's erectile dysfunction to be revealed to the Prime Minister's son and Helian Feng's brothers, only if he is a man in front of Su Ruoyu. Tanghua said with a smile. Red Date was shocked. Princess, are we going to start? The first step is to ruin Helian Feng's reputation? What do you mean by bad? This is called exposing the truth to the public. Doesn't he like to do this kind of thing? Isn't there a rumor going around that I, the princess consort, am a dog in the manger? Every year at the palace banquet, my sisters-in-law and sisters-in-law always want me to have a child. If I don't want to have a child, then I should take a concubine. This is clearly Helian Feng's problem. In their eyes, it's all my fault. Red Date nodded. Helian Feng was indeed despicable. Not only did he give the princess the cold shoulder, he even made the princess bear this kind of reputation. He was practically no different from Sir Zhang. Red Date still did not know that Helian Feng could not do it. She only thought that Tanghua wanted to use this method to clear her name. After all, Helian Feng and Su Ruoyu had an affair. The reality was different from the story. She completely did not expect that Tanghua wanted to use this matter to get others to help her expose Helian Feng. The Peak. Chapter 4107. PFFF. Ji Changqiu spat out a mouthful of tea when he heard the latest news from his subordinate. His normally calm and collected face couldn't help but reveal a bit of shock. Helian Feng, he's impotent? Only with Su Ruoyu? Young master, this is indeed a secret that we found out. This subordinate also feels that this matter is a bit ridiculous. I can't tell if it's true or false, so I can only come back to report to young master. With young master's talent, you will definitely be able to tell. After saying the important thing, this subordinate still flattered him. Ji Changqiu had already calmed down. Do you think Helian Feng is really impotent? Speaking of which, Helian Feng is indeed different from other men. Before the marriage, he didn't have a single female servant by his side. Ji Changqiu nodded. Perhaps there really is a problem. Actually, this subordinate thinks that it might not be so. Under Ji Changqiu's puzzled gaze, this subordinate gathered his courage and said, Young master also doesn't have a female servant by his side, right? We're all men. Hasn't young master never been close to women? Ji Changqiu, this young master's body is weak. I have no interest in the matters between men and women. I even feel disgusted. The psychological shadow that Su Ruoyu had caused him had not dissipated even now. Helian Feng is different. He and Ding Wangfei have been married for 3 years. The two of them haven't had any physical contact. Why would Su Ruoyu suddenly appear and insist on her? Before the marriage, Helian Feng gave people the impression that he was someone who didn't get close to women. Don't you think it's suspicious? In short, continue to watch and see if Helian Feng will give himself away. Ji Changqiu was silent for a moment. A smile suddenly appeared on his handsome face. How about this? Think of a way to leak this news to the other princes. Aren't they fighting very fiercely? I wonder if they will be interested in probing this news. When they make a move, remember to add fuel to the fire. Do it cleanly. Understood, young master. On the other side, when the Prime Minister heard this news, he touched the small mustache at the corner of his mouth. As expected of this official's son. Well done. When you do it, you must wipe it clean and help the other emperors. Just push Helian Feng to the ground and rub it against him. Daring to bully his son. Did they think he was a vegetarian? He just didn't know if this news was true or not. Did the emperor know? If he knew, he would most likely be able to guess that his son had been schemed against, right? Also, Helian Feng tricked the princess of Beiwang country into marrying him. Haha. The prime minister laughed even more happily. He was in big trouble. I heard that some foreign businessmen have come to the capital recently. They seem to be from Beiwang country. Is there such a coincidence? Dear host, as you expected, the reactions from all parties are similar. Helian Feng and Su Ruoyu are surrounded by all kinds of secret guards. I even saw 2 secret guards accidentally bumping into each other. They looked at each other as if they knew what they were here for, and moved away tacitly. The system laughed out loud. This is too interesting. The Prime Minister is also very angry. He actually planted spies beside all the emperors, including in the palace. Also, one of the concubines in the palace was actually a spy planted by him. Tanghua. As expected of the old fox, the villain in the plot. If not for the fact that his halo is too powerful, he might not have lost. Tanghua took out the puppet paper cut again. Taking down Helian Feng was not an easy task. After all, he had a halo around him. Therefore, she decided to arrange a paper cut for him. Its main task was to help the other secret guards clean up the aftermath. If they failed, this paper puppet would replace them. Therefore, Helian Feng and Su Ruoyu were not only surrounded by the secret guards of each family, but also Tanghua's paper puppet. Top point. Chapter 4108. Did Helian Feng not notice that so many people were staring at him? Of course not. Helian Feng had always been surrounded by people who were staring at him. Among the emperor's sons, he was obviously very outstanding. He had outstanding military exploits, and was even conferred the title of Prince Ding. Unlike some princes who did not have a title until now. How could Helian Feng not be feared by the other princes? It was because Helian Feng knew that people were watching him, that he did not pay attention to the abnormalities around him. Helian Feng mistakenly thought that those brothers knew that he had given the formula of hemostatic medicine and anti-inflammatory medicine to the emperor, and wanted to find out more information from him. After all, who wouldn't want to recruit a miracle doctor with such abilities? Helian Feng did not expect that these people who were watching him were here for him. They wanted to see if the latest news was wrong. Actually, the princes did not believe that Helian Feng, who was impotent, would be able to do it with Su Ruoyu. This matter sounded very ridiculous. However, they did not want to give up on such a piece of information that they finally caught hold of. Helian Feng did not pay much attention to those who were watching him. The news that Su Ruoyu was that miracle doctor would be known sooner or later. Luckily, it was less than 3 months before the palace banquet. As long as he got rid of Tanghua, the thorn in the side of the princess of Beiwang country, he would be able to free up the position of Prince Ding's consort for Su Ruoyu. At that time, he could arrange a new identity for Su Ruoyu, which was definitely enough to be Prince Ding's consort. Let's read on WeChat. Helian Feng was already making arrangements for this identity. The earlier the matter was confirmed, the cleaner the traces would be. With the hemostatic medicine and anti-inflammatory medicine, the emperor would not ask about this matter. When he was doing this, Helian Feng really did reveal a few words to the emperor. However, his original words were, Imperial father, your daughter is not an ordinary woman. Other than her outstanding appearance, what's even more special about her is her talent. What happened before was just an accident. It was not what you wanted. Therefore, I want to give you an identity, so that she will have a better identity when she enters the prince's mansion in the future. There were two meanings in his words. First, Suruoyu had been set up by someone before. Secondly, he had to give Suruoyu a respectable status, so that she could enter the prince's mansion in the future. After all, she was so talented and not everyone could make those two kinds of medicine. The emperor had tasted the benefits, and Helion Feng was willing to take over the hot potato, that was Suruoyu. Moreover, he was watching over her and using her for daki. How could he not agree? If they could provide hemostatic and anti-inflammatory drugs today, they might be able to provide better drugs tomorrow. Even if Suruoyu was really a monster, under Helion Feng's control, everything was fine. Therefore, the emperor approved of this matter. Helion Feng's actions could be considered to have crossed the open road. After leaving the palace, Helion Feng wrote a letter to the general guarding the border. In the letter, he stated that Suruoyu was the inventor of the two medicines and needed a respectable identity. Therefore, he asked the general to adopt Suruoyu as his daughter. From Daki's capital to the border, it would take close to 2 months to go back and forth. Calculating the time, it was completely in time for the palace banquet. Helion Feng's actions could not be hidden from the people watching him. However, these people did not care about this matter. The peak. Chapter 4109. They only wanted to confirm if Helion Feng was really impotent towards other women. If that was the case, it was simply a joke. After keeping an eye on Helion Feng for about a month, all parties finally decided to take action. The annual Lantern Festival was coming. As Prince Ding, it was impossible for Helion Feng not to participate in some of the Lantern Festival events. Suruoyu had been holed up for a long time and wanted to go out to take a look. She could only wear a veil when going out. However, everyone knew that she was Helion Feng's person. She suggested to let others follow her and not walk together with Helion Feng. The last time she went out with Helion Feng, she was even recognized by a shrewish young miss. She said some sarcastic words to her, which made her extremely angry. This time, she would not be together with Helion Feng. Suruoyu did not wear a veil and decided to dress up as a man. In addition, with her pretty good makeup skills, no one should be able to recognize her as Suruoyu. Looking at the person in the mirror, Suruoyu felt that she could dress up as a man and go out in the future. As expected, when she walked out, no one looked at her strangely anymore. On the other side, Tangwa also wanted to go out to see the lanterns. How could she miss out on such a lively occasion? Actually, I also like to see lanterns. At night there are all kinds of lanterns. How beautiful. System. I assented because they are going to make a move on Helion Feng tonight. That great host reluctantly went to take a look? Speaking of which, great host still has a scene tonight. How could you be absent? That was just in passing. I really want to see the lanterns. Who doesn't like beautiful things? System. Anyway, he didn't believe it. Great host was good at everything, but she liked to lie to little Tongzi. He thought that it was easy to lie to kindergarten children. After tidying up, Tangwa brought red date to Yunbua Lake. The Lantern Festival was held along the streets around Yunbua Lake. Not only were there all kinds of lanterns on the streets, but there were also small lanterns floating in Yunbua Lake. It was very beautiful at night. 90th Literature Network. If there was a moon, the scenery would be even more beautiful. On Yunbua Lake, there were many lantern boats. The owners of the lantern boats were all people of extraordinary status. For example, the princes of the palace and the young masters of various families. The lantern boats basically revolved around one place, and the deck would be lowered, so that it would be convenient for people to board the boat. Of course, ordinary people were not allowed to go. To be able to board this kind of lantern ship meant that one's status was not ordinary. Most of them only boarded the lantern boats after receiving an invitation. As soon as Tangwa appeared, she was seen by the imperial concubines of several princes. Their maids had already come over to invite her. Tangwa didn't refuse. Staying with these imperial concubines would make it easier for her to act. Ding Wangfei came late again today. The eldest Wangfei said with a fake smile. She should be punished with a cup. Tangwa could see the jealousy in the eldest princess consort's eyes. Yes, after all, Helian Feng was Prince Ding. The first prince was still a single prince. Among the many princes, he seemed to be a rather mediocre person. Every time they met, the eldest princess consort couldn't help but make things difficult for Tangwa. But she didn't dare to go overboard. The original owner was a princess and had her own pride. She wouldn't really punish herself with a cup of wine, just because the eldest princess consort made things difficult for her. Tangwa also didn't want to drink, so of course she wouldn't really drink. She just glanced at everyone indifferently and found her seat to sit down. She was extremely arrogant. Peak. Chapter 41:10. At this moment, the eldest imperial concubine's face was burning. She cursed her bad luck. She clearly knew that Tangwa wouldn't take the bait, so why did she have to say something that would embarrass her? Luckily, the other imperial concubines didn't dare to ridicule her. She pretended not to know and was barely able to get by. Ding Wangfei, has that Miss Su from before been brought into the manor? The second imperial concubine asked. This question was indeed more direct than the eldest imperial concubine. If it was a normal person, they wouldn't have panicked. It was a pity that the person in front of them was Tangwa. Her expression didn't change at all, as she looked at the lantern boat opposite her. On that lantern boat, there were many men of extraordinary status. At this moment, they would interact with each other for a while, and then they would play by themselves later. According to the system's report, Helian Feng was being dragged by his brothers to drink and listen to some songs later. Before coming, Su Ruoyu gave Helian Feng medicine and said that if anything happened later, he should take the medicine so that he wouldn't fall for it. Helian Feng still believed in Su Ruoyu's ability. Therefore, he was very bold and didn't refuse anyone's wine. Tangwa also instructed the paper puppet to help destroy things later, so that Helian Feng wouldn't take the medicine. She drank a cup of tea with a carefree look on her face. She seemed to remember that she hadn't answered the second imperial concubine's question, and returned to her senses, saying, "How could the prince bring that kind of woman back to the manor?" The fourth imperial concubine couldn't help but say, "Then I heard that Ding Wangfei kept her in the manor outside. Since the prince is happy, it's fine to keep a plaything outside." Tangwa said faintly, "The prince is still clear and knows that this plaything can't be brought back to the manor." Originally, Tangwa wouldn't say this. It was the system that told her that Su Ruoyu was nearby, so she wanted to say something to provoke the other party. Didn't Su Ruoyu not want to enter the manor? Then she would tell the other party that if she didn't enter the manor, she would be an outside concubine. That was called stealing. In this world, she couldn't even be compared to a concubine. Hot book room in Su Ruoyu's heart, of course. She did not think that Helian Feng was looking down on her. Su Ruoyu clenched her fists and looked at Tangwa fiercely, as if Tangwa had done something evil. She just didn't want to become a concubine in the prince's mansion. It wasn't that Helian Feng didn't want her to enter the prince's mansion. Helian Feng had said countless times that he wanted to bring her back. She was the one who disagreed. What did these people know? What did they know? They were a group of ignorant and pitiful feudal women. They could only watch their husbands carry one woman after another into the mansion. They didn't dare to object and could only accept it. On the surface, she was the incomparably glorious mistress. But in reality, his heart must be filled with bitterness, right? She, Su Ruoyu, was a woman from the 21st century. She was highly educated and self-reliant, not the kind of woman who relied on men to live. So what right did this group of women who had been poisoned by the feudal society have to laugh at her? A bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. What did they know? She, Su Ruoyu, had always wanted to be with someone for the rest of her life. She did not care to enter the prince's mansion. This feeling that no one understood her thoughts, and she couldn't say it out loud, made Su Ruoyu's tone very cold. Moreover, she felt that even if she said it, it would be like playing the lute to a cow. How could these women understand her new era thoughts? They probably didn't know what self-esteem, self-reliance, and self-improvement meant. The Peak. Chapter 41:11. That's right. She's just a plaything and nothing much. She hasn't even entered Prince Ding's residence. The eldest princess consort said. When Prince Ding loses interest, he will still return to his residence. These words were clearly helping Tanggua, but in reality, she was secretly mocking Prince Ding for not returning home and being seduced by Su Ruoyu. Wasn't it the failure of Tanggua as Princess Ding? Tanggua's lips curled into a smile as she gently sipped her tea, completely not caring about these things. Su Ruoyu didn't want to listen to these anymore and turned to leave. Today, she was going to find another person. It was the daughter who pointed at her and mocked her a while ago. Last time she was lucky. This time, she wanted to teach her a lesson. It wasn't that she didn't want to deal with Tanggua and the other imperial concubines, but she didn't have much confidence. They definitely had secret guards around them, and she was afraid that she would be implicated. Actually, she was a little afraid of Tanggua. Last time, she was mysteriously tricked. She always felt that there was a problem, and temporarily didn't dare to face Tanggua directly. She comforted herself that Tanggua was now a living widow, and Helian Feng didn't have any feelings for her. This feudal woman seemed to be quite pitiful, and she didn't need to deal with her. Looking at the imperial concubine's sharp-tongued insults towards Tanggua, she felt quite refreshed. Keep an eye on Su Ruoyu. She looks like she wants to do something bad. Whatever Su Ruoyu wanted to do, she wouldn't let her do it. People who didn't know their third nature were quite common in the modern era. This kind of person would often use this kind of excuse to open up their own path. Although I know he's married, but every time I see him, my heart can't help but beat wildly. Even one look from him would make me very concerned. I know I'm wrong, but I can't control myself from liking him. I never thought of destroying his family. As long as I can silently watch him from the side, I'm already very satisfied to be able to see him every day. A decent girl wouldn't have any fantasies about a married woman. Even if she couldn't control herself and accidentally had a good impression, she would quickly withdraw and stay away. She definitely wouldn't let this good impression increase. Only a mistress, a White Lotus bitch, would be so forced and unable to control herself. She said that she wouldn't destroy other people's families, but in fact, her words were disgusting. She wouldn't feel that she was in the wrong. After all, she didn't want to destroy the family. She just wanted to protect them silently. She was so noble and pitiful. Almighty Host, Helian Feng has been hit. Almighty Host's paper puppet is still the best. If it wasn't for its help, they wouldn't have been able to defeat Helian Feng successfully. The paper doll puppet didn't do anything other than steal Helian Feng's antidote. After Helian Feng swallowed an ordinary pill, he still didn't know that he had been tricked. The princes were outside drinking wine and composing poems. When they saw that Helian Feng was drunk, they ordered people to help him into the boat to rest. He has also arranged for 2 ladies from Fengyue Brothel to enter. Oh yes, these 2 ladies from Fengyue Brothel were arranged by the Prime Minister's son. Because they all wanted to know if there was really a problem with Helian Feng. The people from several parties tacitly joined hands. Although everyone knew that they had their own people, they didn't know who the other party's people were. As for whether the Prime Minister and Ji Changqiu's men were among them, no one knew. As for Tanggua's paper doll puppet, no one would be able to find out his identity. The 2 ladies from Fengyue Brothel have already made a move on Helian Feng. I suspect that this is revenge from the Prime Minister's son. This guy, although he appears to be calm and indifferent on the surface, he's actually very petty and holds grudges. The Apex. Chapter 41:12. This is bad. Dear host, Su Ruoyu drugged Princess Lu Guang. Where is she? Princess Lu Guang? Tanggua searched her memory. She was Prince Zhong's daughter, Helian Shi. Helian Shi was straightforward and a bit shrewish. She was also a woman who was good at both civil and martial arts. It could be said that she abhorred evil, as if it were her enemy. In the original plot, Princess Lu Guang disliked Su Ruoyu and did not treat her well. She remembered that during the Lantern Festival, a scandal about Princess Lu Guang happened. The incident was covered up, but Princess Lu Guang later married an ugly man and passed away not long after. Could it be that Princess Lu Guang's scandal was caused by Su Ruyu? Where is she? Tanghua asked the system. At the same time, she stood up and said to the imperial concubines, I want to go light the lanterns. After that, she turned and left, not giving them any face. The original owner's personality was like this. They were angry, but there was nothing they could do. They did not dare to stop her. Tanghua walked forward quickly. The more she walked, the more remote she became. She did not see Su Ruyu. Su Ruyu went somewhere else. She drugged an ugly man and Princess Lu Guang at the same time. So something happened. It could only be this ugly man. Red Date did not ask where Tanghua was going. She just followed silently. Not long after, Tanghua walked to a remote alley. Sure enough, she saw Princess Lu Guang leaning against the wall. She was not in a clear state of mind. Her face was red, like a cooked prawn. Not far away, there was a swaying figure. It should be the ugly man mentioned by the system. According to her memory, this ugly man had some status. Although it was not very high, he was not from an ordinary family. He ate, drank, gambled, and had no talent or ability. Princess, is this Princess Lu Guang? Red Date was surprised. It seems like she was drugged. Yes. Are there any of our men? Send Princess Lu Guang back to Prince Zhong's residence. Yes. A shadow guard has always been by her side to protect the princess. Red Date was furious. I don't know who did it. Is it that man? Red Date had already discovered that the unprepossessing man was slowly walking towards them. Tanghua shook her head. No, he's important too. Tanghua walked over, knocked the man unconscious, and dragged him to a corner. Red Date was stunned. However, she didn't have time to be surprised. She planned to instruct the two of them to send Lu Guang back to Prince Zhong's mansion. You should go personally. Tanghua continued. Shadow guards are all men, so it's inevitable that Prince Zhong will have some ideas. You're the most suitable one to go. Just say that you accidentally bumped into Lu Guang Junju and saw that the situation wasn't right, so you sent her back. Okay. With the shadow guards following her, and the princess's martial arts skills were better than hers, there was nothing to worry about. Red Date was also rude. He knocked Lu Guang out and carried her to the Prince Zhong mansion. She heard that her good friend was going to put on a show tonight, so she had to send her back quickly. She came over to watch the show. Hopefully she could still make it in time, right? The princess said that she still had to act in a while. In fact, she didn't even know how she was going to act. It was the princess who said that when the time came, she would know how to act. Thinking of this, Red Date ran even faster. She cursed the person who drugged her in her heart. If she missed her part, she would definitely curse that person 10,000 times in her heart. Tanghua returned to the crowd and casually bought a lantern. Young master, Lu Guang Junju is out of danger. It was done by Princess Ding. Ji Changqiu nodded. That's good. Princess Ding is really a kind-hearted person. How could she be worthy of a dog like Helian Feng? Bitter subordinate. I don't know why, but young master has been cursing Helian Feng dozens of times every day. Ah! At this time, a woman's scream came from one of the lantern boats. It didn't attract everyone's attention, but it attracted the attention of the people around the lantern boats. They all stopped what they were doing and looked towards the lantern boat, only to see two women running out with disheveled clothes. Peek. Chapter 41:13. Everyone stared at the two disheveled women who ran out of the boat. Before they could be surprised at what happened, the two women started crying loudly. I really don't know what happened. It was Prince Ding who insisted on pulling me away. I didn't expect. The woman wiped her tears as she spoke. It was really Prince Ding who came to pull her away. She didn't take the initiative to approach him, although she didn't know why Prince Ding, who wasn't interested in women, would be so passionate. But Prince Ding got angry and asked me to scram. Therefore, everyone was puzzled. Why did Prince Ding ask these two women to scram? There were quite a lot of things like finding pleasure on the lantern boat. It was just that they didn't expose it on the surface. You all can leave. The second prince said. We will go and see how third brother is doing. The reaction of the two women had already told everyone present that Helian Feng really couldn't do anything to other women. It wasn't like what they thought in the past. Now that was interesting. A few princes went into the boat, and some young masters who weren't afraid of trouble also went in. Ji Changqiu reminded them kindly, "Do you want to invite a doctor?" At this moment, Su Ruyu didn't notice them, so he wasn't anxious. If Su Ruyu didn't notice, he would let the other party notice. It was said that the medicine given to Helian Feng this time was top-grade medicine from the various princes. After taking so much, Helian Feng probably wouldn't be clear-headed anymore. If the doctor couldn't solve it, they would need Su Ruoyu's help. Tang Guo was now Prince Ding's princess consort and couldn't leave. Not only couldn't she leave, but she also had to follow them in to check on Helian Feng's condition. The group of people entered the house, and there were already attendants who covered Helian Feng's disheveled clothes with a blanket. However, from his flushed face and the large beads of sweat on his forehead, it could be seen that his condition wasn't good. QQ the doctor came very quickly. Ji Changqiu had already prepared for this. After all, he had to diagnose Helian Feng's problem. After taking so many strong medicine, there was no reaction at all. Wouldn't that prove that he couldn't move? The doctor saw Helian Feng's appearance and knew that he was drugged. It wasn't a simple medicine. His entire body was boiling hot, as if he had been in boiling water. "Ladies, please leave first." As Helian Feng's princess consort, Tang Guo didn't need to return. But don't forget, there wasn't any physical contact between her and Helian Feng, so she subconsciously avoided him. This action caused everyone present to realize something. There was no need to avoid playing with Ding Wangfei. After all, this was his Wangfei. It seemed like this princess consort knew about Helian Feng's impotence. However, it was also possible that she didn't know. Helian Feng knew that he couldn't do it, and didn't want this secret to be known by other people, so he simply ignored this Ding Wangfei. With this thought, the minds of the princes became active once more. This princess consort Ding wasn't an ordinary family's daughter. She was the daughter of Bei Wang country's eldest princess, and was very doted on. If she knew that Helian Feng had cheated her to marry him, how terrible would that be? If Daki didn't give them an explanation, this matter wouldn't be over. No wonder they had children even after being married for so many years. So it wasn't a problem with Ding Wangfei, but with Helian Feng. The way they looked at Tang Guo was very subtle. Tang Guo turned her back to them, and pretended not to know anything. Vertex. Chapter 41:14. System. Host. This scene is very simple. Just turn around. I saw that everyone was suspicious. The acting was very successful. Not long after, the doctor finished his diagnosis, and he wiped the cold sweat off his head. The eldest prince, who was a man of few words, asked, "Doctor, how is third brother?" In reply to Your Highness, Prince Ding was drugged with more than one type of drug. I estimate that there should be 7 or 8 types. These drugs are all very strong, and the amount is very large. If an ordinary person were to take one type, it would be enough to make them drink a whole pot. If it's just the fact that the drug is very strong, it's actually easy to solve. We just need to find some ladies. Speaking up to this point, the doctor hesitated. However, this is not a simple matter of Chinese medicine, but... A glint flashed across the second prince's eyes as he asked, "But what?" "This. Doctor, there's no harm in saying it. This concerns third brother's safety. It's better not to hide it." The doctor looked at Ji Changqiu and gritted his teeth. He wasn't afraid that Prince Ding would settle the score with him. He was the prime minister's son. Even the skin on his face was fake. This hesitation was just to complete the act. If it was too extreme and too deliberate, it would easily arouse everyone's suspicion. These princes weren't simple people. Even the eldest prince who looked ordinary was scheming. "Doctor, quickly say it. Third brother is still waiting here. I think third brother's condition isn't very good." The fourth prince looked anxious, as if he was really worried about Helian Feng's safety. "I've already instructed someone to go to the palace, to invite an imperial physician. Doctor, you can take a look first. If you can't solve it, you can just hand it over to the imperial physician when he comes later." The doctor gritted his teeth and said, "It's like this. The problem now is that even after being drugged with so many drugs, Prince Ding's place doesn't have any reaction at all. As long as there is some reaction, This matter can be solved easily. If there is no reaction, it means that the evil fire can't be purged and the poison can't be expelled. I also don't have a solution. These drugs have been mixed together to form a new drug. There's no way to concoct an antidote in a short time. In any case, he didn't have the ability. 520 Even if he had the ability, he had to pretend that he didn't. The young master had said that things like curing Prince Ding's poison wasn't something they could interfere with. Everyone present widened their eyes. Even the womenfolk who had been passed by were shocked. They looked at each other. Actually, under normal circumstances, they would not be able to enter this place. The only reason they could enter was because all the princes here wanted to see Helian Feng make a fool of himself. If they didn't enter the ship to see the situation, how could they spread this shocking news? The spreading ability of the harem was much faster than them going out to find people to spread the news. The women of the inner residence, especially the imperial concubines, seemed to have understood the thoughts of their highness. They were so excited that their hands were shaking. Prince Ding actually couldn't do it. He couldn't even do it after taking medicine. He had even taken 7 to 8 different types of medicine. Heavens, what kind of good news is this? Is this the blessing of the gods? The princes present all pretended to be very surprised. After all, with the foreshadowing from before, this result was within their expectations. However, those young masters who didn't know what to do were at a loss. They seemed to have heard an incredible secret and wondered if they would be silenced. However, seeing that there were so many people present, and that they weren't ordinary people, no matter how powerful Prince Ding was, he wouldn't dare to silence them. Therefore, they watched the show with peace of mind. Vertex. Chapter 41:15. The womenfolk thought of something, and turned their gazes towards Tanghua. This princess from Beiwang country was too unlucky. She actually married a fake man. No wonder her belly didn't get bigger after so many years. So it was all Prince Ding's fault. This Prince Ding was the same. Every time they ridiculed Princess Ding, how could he not know? He didn't protect her at all, and allowed them to talk about Princess Ding. This man was too much of a dog. At this time, the womenfolk's hostility towards Tang Guo was completely swept away. Marrying a fake man, they couldn't say anything. They had already succeeded, and wanted to hack Prince Ding. What Prince Ding? He was just a good-for-nothing. Pretending not to be a womanizer was just to cover up his inability. Allowing his princess consort to be talked about as a chicken that couldn't lay eggs. Occupying the latrine but not taking a shit. So it was to cover up his inability. Not only that, he didn't treat Princess Ding well. What was even more frightening was that when he couldn't do well, he actually learned to play with women outside. It was unknown who gave him the courage. A person who was naturally castrated, learning how to be dissolute. When he pretended, it was really something disgusting. These womenfolk's identities were all uncertain. When they put themselves in the shoes of Prince Ding, he gritted his teeth in hatred. He rejoiced in his heart that the person he married didn't have this kind of innate problem. I love Chinese network. After Tang Guo received countless sympathy, she showed an appropriate helpless expression. These womenfolk didn't really care about her. They just thought, you look so pitiful now. No matter how high your status is, no matter how arrogant you are still so pitiful. It was as though they didn't hate Tang Guo just because she was a level lower than them. The eldest prince's wife stood beside Tang Guo. She even patted Tang Guo's hand, comforting her. Prince Ding must have found it hard to talk about this matter, so he didn't call for a doctor. Now it can't be hidden anymore. The illness has to be treated, and you will get better. That's right. It's a pity that you have suffered so many years of grievances. We had wronged you in the past. Tang Guo didn't speak. It was good that she was silent now. Let their imaginations fill in the blanks, and they would be able to come up with a perfect drama. Doctor, are you serious? The second prince was the first to react. How could third brother be? That's right. How could third brother be like this? His body is so healthy. The first prince said. The fourth prince's expression became even more exaggerated. He even ran over to Helian Feng's side to take a look, revealing an expression of disbelief. How can this be? Is there a problem with the medicine? It's definitely not a problem with the medicine. According to this level of medicine, Prince Ding should be. Before the doctor could finish his sentence, everyone understood. There is no reaction in that part of Prince Ding's body, but the other parts are normal. Prince Ding must have chased the two ladies out because he was anxious. The doctor said, "In order to prevent Prince Ding from hurting himself, I have just fed him some paralyzing medicine. However, the effect of this medicine will not be too long, and he will wake up in at most half an hour. For the sake of your health, you can't use it a second time." After saying that, the doctor wiped his sweat. "Your Highnesses, I really can't do anything. We can only wait for the imperial physician in the palace to come and take a look." "Got it." The eldest prince turned to the crowd and said, "Why don't we send third brother to the palace and let the imperial physicians take a look?" This decision was approved by everyone. Just as they were about to move Helian Feng, a female voice rang out from outside. Vertex. Chapter 41:16. Let me in. I want to see Prince Ding. He will definitely agree to see me. This voice was Su Ruoyu's. Something had happened to Prince Ding. It had been so long and Su Ruoyu should have known. However, at this moment Helian Feng couldn't speak. He was burning until he was delirious. How could he notice Su Ruoyu? The princes remembered that Su Ruoyu had a special effect on Helian Feng. So of course, they would not allow her to get close to him. Once she got close to him, Helian Feng's body would react. Then the matter of Helian Feng's impotence wouldn't be confirmed, and today's plan would be wasted. No matter what, Su Ruoyu had to use it at the end. Moreover, they all wanted Helian Feng to suffer a little, especially Ji Changqiu. First Prince, it's better to send Prince Ding into the palace first. For some strange woman to suddenly appear at this time, I'm afraid it will delay Prince Ding's treatment. The eldest prince agreed. Go and stop that woman outside. Don't allow her to cause trouble. This matter concerns Prince Ding's safety. If she dares to cause trouble, kill her without mercy. Killing the only woman that Helian Feng had feelings for didn't seem too bad either. Su Ruoyu did want to go in by force, but there were masters here. She had only practiced martial arts for a few months. How could she compare with these masters? It didn't take long for her to be captured. However, he didn't really kill her. Instead, he confined her to one side. Why don't we lock her up? A sinister smile appeared on the second prince's lips. This woman is third brother's woman. Su Ruoyu was indeed a woman dressed as a man, but the real situation was that she could not fool the eyes of these princes. They could see that she was a woman at a glance. From the moment she spoke, they knew who she was. Did she really think that everyone was so stupid that they would be a real man, just because they combed their hair? She had been completely exposed by the sounds just now. Just like that, Su Ruoyu was locked up. Helian Feng was brought back to the imperial palace for treatment. As Ding Wangfei, Tanghua had to follow in. The 8th book. Ji Changqiu looked at her back worriedly. He wasn't worried that she would be sad, but he was afraid that Helian Feng would harm her. After thinking about it, he decided to go back and look for his father. Back at the Prime Minister's residence, Helian Feng knocked on the Prime Minister's door. Luckily, his father was an old bachelor. Otherwise, he would be too embarrassed to knock on the door in the middle of the night. What are you doing in the middle of the night? Father, something happened during the Lantern Festival tonight, Ji Changqiu said. Everything was within the Prime Minister's expectations. He was still waiting for the good news the next morning. He didn't expect his son to be unable to hold himself back and come over to share a night story with him. Haha, the Prime Minister laughed and spat. Serves him right. Last time, he wanted to scheme against my son. I was wondering how he came up with that idea. Sure enough, he came up with it himself. As expected of Prince Ding. Father, do you have someone in the palace? The Prime Minister narrowed his eyes. Why? Do you want to watch a good show? There were people, but these people were not there to watch a good show. However, since you want to take a look, there's no harm. I'll immediately send a letter to the palace. As a qualified Prime Minister, raising a flock of carrier pigeons was a necessary skill. Changqiu, you're asking about this in the middle of the night. I don't think you're just here to watch the show, right? How could the Prime Minister not know his own son? Although he couldn't guess the specifics, He knew that there must be another reason. Ji Changqiu smiled faintly. Father, do you still remember the time when I was in danger? The peak. Chapter 41:17. Of course I remember. We didn't have any enmity with Prince Ding, but he dared to scheme against you. Now we are enemies. Ji Changqiu smiled more sincerely in front of the Prime Minister. If it wasn't for Princess Ding helping Sun that day, the news of Sun's impotence would have spread that day. Father should know what kind of reaction the Su family would have then, right? Ji Changqiu briefly recounted what had happened that day. After the Prime Minister heard it, he had a better impression of Princess Ding, who lived in seclusion and rarely showed herself in front of others. It turned out that not everyone in Prince Ding's residence was hateful. He would remember this favor. But his son's reaction wasn't right. Changqiu, do you have any thoughts about Princess Ding? The Prime Minister had an expression of I have seen through you. Don't say anything to coax your father. We were young once. You can't hide your thoughts from your father. Under the moonlight, Ji Changqiu's face flushed red. He wanted to refute, but he remembered the Prime Minister's words and fell silent. Do you have any ideas? He didn't deliberately think in this direction before. But now that he thought about it, it was because of Princess Ding's identity that he had to retreat, and didn't dare to think in that direction. The Prime Minister sighed. It's normal for you to have such thoughts. After all, such a courageous and intelligent woman is rare. The Prime Minister frowned with a bitter expression. But no matter how much we like her, we can't do something like snatching a woman from a good family. Although your father isn't a good person, he can't do such a thing. It's not good for us. It's easy to be grasped by others, and we might not be able to snatch her. Ji Changqiu laughed in his heart. Wasn't the last part the main point? He knew his father very well. Dian book room. But it's not like there's no chance at all. The Prime Minister said. The most important thing now is whether Princess Ding likes you or not. As long as she likes you, there's an 80% chance of success. Ji Changqiu looked at the Prime Minister's sparkling eyes in shock. A chill ran down his spine. What was his father planning? Father, Prince Ding isn't dead yet. It's not realistic to poison her. Even if she's dead as Princess Ding, she can't remarry. Pay. The Prime Minister rolled his eyes at Ji Changqiu. What are you thinking? Other than killing Prince Ding, isn't there another way? Let them separate. Since Princess Ding did not flare up, she most likely had her own thoughts. As a princess of Beiwang country, could she endure Prince Ding's deceit? If they don't act up, then they are waiting for an opportunity to act up. Don't tell me you didn't think of this? Ji Changqiu replied. I've thought of it, but this opportunity isn't easy. Prince Ding alone won't do. Unless Beiwang country is willing to shed all pretense of cordiality, it's basically impossible for her and me to work together. Haste makes waste. Don't be anxious. If the people of the Beiwang nation aren't anxious, why should we be? Just wait patiently. It's fine as long as you keep this matter in mind. Don't intentionally get close to him. After all, your identities will cause trouble for each other. The Prime Minister analyzed. Tonight we have already confirmed that Prince Ding is impotent. Now we're just waiting to confirm another matter. The only person who can make him a man is Su Ruoyu. It's said that Su Ruoyu won't marry into the family as a concubine. She even said that she wants to be a couple for the rest of her life. Prince Ding might not be too infatuated with her, but she could not leave him. In addition, Su Ruoyu's medical skills have already been seen by the emperor. If he wants to be together with Su Ruoyu openly and bring her into the family, he must get rid of an eyesore. The Prime Minister gave Ji Changqiu a you understand look. Ji Changqiu understood, but his expression was slightly cold. If this was really the case, Helian Feng was really vicious and merciless. As long as Helian Feng's plan is good, the emperor will turn a blind eye. The prerequisite is that the friendship between the two countries is not harmed. At least, Diqi will not be the one in the wrong. Ji Changqiu replied, Father, I understand. Quickly release the pigeons, and see what's happening in the palace. Those pigeons of yours have not been used for a long time. None of them are able to fly. If they don't fly, we might as well stew them and eat them. Although you are my son, don't even think about touching a single pigeon. The Peak. Chapter 41:18. In the palace, all the imperial physicians were summoned to treat Helian Feng. The emperor didn't expect this to happen. He knew that his sons were fighting fiercely, and this was a situation he was happy to see. As long as things didn't get out of his control and didn't touch his bottom line, it didn't matter how his sons fought. An outstanding heir would undoubtedly need these things. Moreover, these sons continued to fight and restrict each other. As an emperor, his sons were still thinking about the dragon throne he sat on every day. He didn't expect that Helian Feng, who was always smart, would fall for it. It wasn't that he didn't fall for it before, but it wasn't as serious as this time. He actually became delirious. Helian Feng in front of him might not be able to resist even if he was stabbed. The emperor's mood was very complicated. Previously, he was still wondering why Helian Feng was fine. Now the situation was different. After taking so many drugs, his third son still couldn't do it. At this moment, the emperor couldn't help but think of the story of young Master Zhang that was circulating in the capital. Young Master Zhang was also a natural eunuch. If he didn't meet a demon by chance, he might not be able to be a real man in his life. Was Su Ruoyu a demon who came to harm people? At present it didn't seem like it. Regardless of whether Su Ruoyu was a demon or not, she was already on the emperor's guard list. Not only did the emperor think of this, the other princes also thought of this. As long as it was proven that Su Ruoyu could really make Helian Feng react, it would basically confirm Su Ruoyu's importance to Helian Feng. It wouldn't be surprising why he indulged Su Ruoyu so much. Ji Changqiu in the prime minister's residence was also very playful. Young Master Zhang's story came at such a coincidence. This story had been circulating for a long time. Although he helped to spread it, before he did, it had already spread out of the capital. This almost became a bizarre story. Very few people didn't know about it, and there were countless versions. Young Master Zhang's story wasn't a big deal. This kind of story was everywhere. The only thing that didn't seem right was that young Master Zhang was a natural eunuch, and so was Helian Feng. Young Master Zhang later became a real man because he met a demon. Helian Feng also met a woman who made him a real man, Su Ruoyu. With this comparison, young Master Zhang's story seemed to be hinting at something. After connecting the dots, Ji Changqiu felt that this matter wasn't simple. Who was the person who made up young Master Zhang's story? It seemed to be targeting Helian Feng. Tang Guo was waiting at the side, looking a little depressed. During this period, the imperial physician also asked the palace nannies to ask Tang Guo some questions, which were of course very private. Helian Feng's problem was very thorny. They needed to confirm whether Helian Feng was unable to do it because he had taken medicine, or if he was unable to do it in the first place. At this time, there was no need for Tang Guo to hide it anymore. Nanny also said that since she got married, she lived alone in the small courtyard of the prince's mansion. He almost never met Helian Feng every day. The most they met was probably at the annual palace banquet. If it was a coincidence, the palace banquet would be the only time they would see each other. His voice was not soft, and everyone who heard it was shocked. In particular, a few concubines who were worried about Tang Guo and accompanied her here quickly put themselves in her shoes and imagined what kind of life Tang Guo was living in the prince's mansion. It turned out that some people really looked good on the surface, but in reality, they were suffering unspeakable hardships. No matter what, she was still a princess. It was already frustrating enough for her to be asked such a question, so it was understandable that she had a weird temper. Vertex. Chapter 41:19. With this, the only resentment the imperial concubines had towards Tang Guo dissipated. Each of them looked at Tang Guo with pity. There was nothing Tang Guo disliked. Gaining everyone's sympathy was also one of the steps. In her position, it was best not to say any harsh words to blame Helian Feng. After all, he only had 2 mistakes now. He was not good enough, and he had found a woman outside. It was sad to say that in this era, it was not a big deal for a man to have these 2 mistakes. If she showed her disdain at this time, she would be scolded by a group of people. They would definitely scold her for being a woman who could not lack a man, and was so anxious to get rid of Helian Feng, to find a new man. Yes, the world was always tolerant of men. When it came to women, they were the ones who were wronged. Some normal choices would still be scolded by them with all kinds of sharp and unpleasant words. Just like in the modern era, many men recalled breaking up with their ex. Many of them would say that they could not give her the life she wanted. This sentence was not a confession for himself, but the underlying meaning was to tell the confidant that he had been abandoned by his vain ex. In fact, if it was a vain woman who only loved money, she would not have taken a fancy to you in the beginning. In this kind of situation, most of them had been together for a few years. Not only did they not see any hope in this man, but he had also changed. One could imagine how harsh the world had been to women since ancient times. Tang Guo looked at those imperial physicians, who were busy helping Helian Feng, and thought of an even more ridiculous thing. There were two very real news. The first news was that a man had an affair, and his wife proposed a divorce. The man was unwilling. The man admitted his mistake very seriously, and made all kinds of compromises. The wife could not tolerate sand in her eyes, and still wanted a divorce. At that time, there were some especially ridiculous comments under the comments. They said that it was inevitable for men to have an affair. This was a mistake that all men in the world would make. He had already admitted his mistake, and was so sincere. This woman was too harsh and unreasonable. She was so unreasonable, and did not care about his feelings at all. Even if it was for the sake of the child, she should not have divorced so easily. Originally, it was the man who made a mistake. Because the man regretted it, the wife still did not agree, and did not choose to forgive him. Should she be attacked by countless people? At that time, those comments had refreshed her worldview. The second piece of news was that a young girl had been stabbed to death on the street. Her life had come to an abrupt end at the age of 20. In the end, the investigation revealed that the murderer was the young girl's boyfriend. What surprised Tang Guo even more was the comments below. There were actually many people saying that she must have been cheated on. This young girl looked quite beautiful. Perhaps she was vain, and went to find a rich man to cheat on her boyfriend. That was why she couldn't bear it and killed him. She couldn't understand if these people had opened their heaven's eyes to know so clearly. How could the words that came out of his mouth be so foul? With Tang Guo's status, she could indeed propose a divorce based on Helian Feng's current situation. But she didn't want to let Helian Feng off so easily. This person wanted to kill her, and Su Ruoyu wanted to frame her to make a fool of herself. How could there be such an easy thing? After the imperial physicians finished their diagnosis, they all looked at the emperor with troubled expressions, indicating that there was nothing they could do at the moment. Even if they came up with a solution, they wouldn't be able to solve Helian Feng's current situation. Vertex. Chapter 41:20. After taking those mixed drugs, the evil fire in his body must be released. However, Helian Feng couldn't do it. He couldn't even do such a simple thing. For a moment, everyone was silent. The princes were well aware, and looked towards the emperor. The emperor knew what they were looking at. They wanted him to call Su Ruoyu in. In this case, their goal was achieved. The emperor was still silent. To be honest, Su Ruoyu was a strange woman. He wanted to interrogate her about her secrets, but he never had the chance. Perhaps this was his chance. Of course, the emperor couldn't say it himself. If he called Su Ruoyu in, wouldn't it seem like he was watching this joke? So he was still waiting. He wanted to see which of these princes couldn't hold it in. At this moment, someone ran in and whispered in the second prince's ear. Then, the second prince looked at the emperor with a troubled expression. The emperor thought, "Isn't she here now?" He quickly asked, "Second prince, what's the matter?" "Father, Su Ruoyu has been clamoring to see third brother. She said she's worried about third brother's condition." Su Ruoyu was so anxious because she knew Helian Feng was drugged. When Helian Feng was carried away, it was obvious that he was delirious. She didn't want anyone to succeed, and let Helian Feng touch another woman under such circumstances. Didn't Tang Guo follow him into the palace? As Helian Feng's princess consort, this probably became her duty. Helian Feng didn't like Tang Guo at all. She wouldn't give her a chance to touch Helian Feng, so she kept clamoring to see her. She planned to use other means if they didn't let her go, although it would expose more. Go call her in. The emperor waved his hand, and Su Ruoyu was brought in. Su Ruoyu saw Helian Feng's red face and delirious mind. She took pity on him, and reached out to take his pulse. She didn't expect Helian Feng to have a reaction as soon as he touched her. He immediately pulled her down. At this moment the emperor spoke. Imperial physician, quickly check on third brother's condition. Su Ruoyu's eyes widened. She couldn't believe it. This scene was as awkward as it could be. Someone really pulled Su Ruoyu away. The imperial physician went to check on Helian Feng's condition, and was shocked. Your Majesty, it's okay. Prince Ding is fine. Send 2 palace maids over. The emperor also glanced at Tanggua. Of course, he couldn't let Tanggua, the princess of Beiwang, do this kind of venting thing. To be honest, Su Ruoyu was overthinking. As for Su Ruoyu, the emperor was sure that her identity was strange. He also wanted to confirm if only Su Ruoyu could make Helian Feng react. If that was the case, it would prove that Old Third did not lie to him. Everyone left the room, and Su Ruoyu was also pulled out. She watched as the 2 palace maids were sent in. No matter how hard she struggled, there was nothing she could do. Fearing that she would cause trouble, her acupoints were sealed, and she could not move. Not long after the palace maids were sent in, they all ran out and knelt in front of the emperor, looking troubled. The emperor understood and asked with a calm face, "What happened?" This servant greets the emperor. This servant does not have the good fortune to serve Prince Ding. The palace maid did not dare to say that Prince Ding was not good, and could only say that she did not have the good fortune. At this moment, everyone heaved a sigh of relief, including the emperor. It turned out that only Su Ruoyu, this woman, could make Prince Ding a real man. Su Ruoyu also heaved a sigh of relief. Her understanding was different from everyone else. Peak. Chapter 41-21. The emperor did not allow her to be together with Helian Feng, so he must have felt that her status was not as good as a palace maid. This made her bear a grudge and feel unhappy. Who was he looking down on? She was happy that the 2 palace maids were chased out. She felt that Helian Feng thought that the 2 palace maids were not her, so he asked them to scram out. Helian Feng was able to endure for her in this situation. It could be seen that he really cared about her. At this moment, Su Ruoyu's heart was tied to Helian Feng. She felt that this man was hers, and no one else could touch him. Tanggua saw the strange excitement on Su Ruoyu's face, and had some guesses in her heart. Su Ruoyu would not misunderstand that Helian Feng rejected the 2 palace maids for her, right? This would be fun. A beautiful misunderstanding. Let her in. The emperor's gaze landed on Su Ruoyu. The guards unsealed Su Ruoyu's acupuncture points, and pushed her into the room. Without Su Ruoyu, everyone's gaze gradually landed on Tanggua, and they were filled with sympathy. Princess Ding, this is something that I have no choice. The emperor gave a symbolic explanation, as he gave Beiwang country some face. If it was any other princess, he would not bother to say such words. Tanggua sneered at this moment. She looked as if she had gone crazy. I was wondering what had made Prince Ding unhappy. So the problem did not lie with me but with him. To think that I had to bear the infamy for so many years. Imperial father, since Prince Ding was ill, why didn't you tell me earlier? You have deceived me so much. It was a pity that the original owner did not know what was going on until she died. She thought that it was her status that made Helian Feng fearful. The emperor was a little embarrassed. He did not know how to explain this matter. Even if he explained, he would not be able to explain it clearly. Tanggua was also looking forward to the emperor's explanation. Anyway, Deqi's imperial family would have a lot of trouble in the future. Tanggua did not leave the palace. She planned to wait here for a while. It seemed that the others had no intention of leaving. The effects of the medicine added together was incredible. She did not know how long it would last. Tanggua's prediction was right. There was no movement for the entire night. The emperor had left long ago. The princes and their concubines were all there, saying that they were worried about Prince Ding. Su Ruoyu's body was not bad, but she could not withstand such torment. In the end, she fainted and was carried out by the palace maids. Tang Guo watched as Su Ruoyu was sent out for treatment. She then followed the imperial physician to check on Helian Feng. The evil fire has subsided, but this time, Prince Ding's foundation has been injured. He has to abstain from sexual activity for a month. As such, Tang was staying in the palace for a night was more or less enough. She believed that she would be very satisfied with what the princes and princesses would do next. He would definitely spread the news about this matter and add some extra details so that everyone would know the whole story. Sure enough, after leaving the palace, the system helped Tang Guo to broadcast the discussions of the commoners. They were all saying that Prince Ding was not good and that she, Princess Ding, was pitiful. Red date, get someone to spread the news. Say that Prince Ding is ill, but he cheated to marry the princess of Beiwang country. What is the meaning of this? Understood, princess. After returning to the prince's residence, Tang Guo wrote a letter and stuffed it into the puppet pigeon's stomach. After a while, the pigeon flew away and disappeared. Chapter 41:22. She didn't write anything and just asked her mother, the eldest princess, and her uncle to do one thing and spread the rumor that Prince Ding was impotent. Prince Ding was ill and deliberately hid it to marry the princess of Beiwang country. Did this not value the friendship between the two countries and look down on Beiwang country, or was it deliberately slapping Beiwang country's face? She had to let the entire Beiwang country be involved in this. This was not just a princess's matter, but the entire Beiwang country's matter. Being slapped in the face by Deqi, even those old men of Beiwang country would not give in and would peel off a layer of skin from Beiwang country. Yes, at this time, those old men would not agree to take her back. She was not in a hurry to go back, since she had not slapped Helian Feng's face enough. In the end, those old men would beg her uncle to take her back as a princess for the sake of their backbone. The carrier pigeon's speed was very fast. After all, Brother Qi Xiao had specially helped her research, so in a few days, Beiwang country would receive it. No matter how shocking the thing was, she did not dare to take it out to avoid trouble. On the other side, Tang Guo had just freshened up and wanted to rest. She did not need to worry about what would happen outside, as there were many people who had bad intentions towards Helian Feng. But before she could lie down, she was informed that a guest had come. The person who came was the housekeeper of Prince Zhong's residence. The housekeeper had also heard about Prince Ding's matter, and it might be something that Tang Guo did. The housekeeper could not help but sympathize with her. The housekeeper of Prince Zhong's residence came this time to give Tang Guo a gift to express his gratitude, and also a promise from Prince Zhong. I am very grateful to Princess Ding for yesterday's matter. The housekeeper's face was full of respect. Prince asked this old servant to pass a message to Princess Ding. If Princess Ding has any difficulties in the future, you can send someone to Prince Zhong's residence. A prince's promise was obviously very precious. Tang Guo did not value it, but it was not a bad thing to have one more friend. She accepted the gift and said that it was a coincidence that she met. The steward wanted to ask if Princess Tang Guo knew who drugged her, but Princess Tang Guo shook her head. I met Princess Lu Guang by chance. I heard that Princess Lu Guang has a straightforward personality and loves to fight for justice. Could it be that she was an eyesore that caused someone to do such a despicable thing? The steward nodded. The princess's temperament is like this, and she can't change it. I didn't expect it to almost cause a disaster. Since Princess Ding does not know about this matter, then this old servant will leave first. Junju is also very grateful to Ding Wangfei, and even said that she wanted to come and play with Ding Wangfei after she recovered, asking Ding Wangfei to forgive her. Tang Guo lowered her head, indicating that she did not mind. Speaking of which, Princess Lu Guang did speak up for her, which made Su Ruoyu hate her. She didn't feel like she had lost anything by helping Princess Lu Guang. Who wouldn't like this kind of pure girl, who had a straightforward personality and treated people sincerely? She would treat anyone who treated her well. Who wouldn't like her? System. Hold on. Host, your idea is very dangerous. The emperor wanted to block the news of Helian Feng, but then he found that it was too late. The entire capital knew. He was not that angry, Helian Feng's reputation was a bit worse. To be honest, he would be more at ease. Helian Feng woke up at night and felt a certain part of his body hurt. Knowing that he must have ordered, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. How is your? Miss Su is in another room. Actually, Su Ruoyu had already woken up. She had secretly drunk spring water, which was why she woke up so quickly. Currently, the emperor had arranged for people to check her body. They felt that she had used some special method, but unfortunately, they did not find anything. Su Ruoyu did not dare to use any methods to do anything to these people, so she could only escape. The current situation was that she did not have the ability to escape. Being stripped naked and checked, she felt insulted. Luckily, Helian Feng wanted to see her later, and she was sent over. Helian Feng summoned his confidant and found out everything. Of course, this matter was not heard by Su Ruoyu. In Su Ruoyu's heart, she was very touched that Helian Feng could reject a woman for her when he was feeling unwell. This kind of man, even in the modern era, would not be easy to find. Therefore, when she poured tea for Helian Feng, she directly changed it to the spring water in her space. After Helian Feng finished drinking, he felt that something was wrong. It was as if his entire body was warm. He looked at Su Ruoyu with surprise. Su Ruoyu felt a bit of sweetness in her heart, and finally could not help but share this secret. Peak. Chapter 41-23. When Su Ruoyu shared her secret with Helian Feng, the usually shrewd Helian Feng couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. Although he had doubts about Su Ruoyu's abilities, and felt that she had some secrets that outsiders didn't know, he still didn't expect that Su Ruoyu had such a big secret. It was a magical space, and there was even a spiritual spring in the space. The tea he drank just now was made with the spiritual spring. No wonder it could instantly eliminate many of the discomforts in his body. Then he remembered that every time he drank the tea made by Su Ruoyu, he would feel refreshed. It was most likely because there was a small amount of spiritual spring in the tea. Just now, he drank a full cup and instantly understood that the tea was extraordinary. There was also black soil in the space. It was said that the fruits and vegetables grown from it would taste very good, and also contain some spiritual energy. Often eating the food grown from the black soil would prolong one's life. In addition to these, there are many martial arts manuals in that house. I learned my martial arts there. Su Ruoyu leaned in Helian Feng's arms, and didn't mind sharing her secret at all. However, in the end, she still chose to hide the fact that she was not the original Su Ruoyu. Helian Feng now didn't care whether Su Ruoyu was the real Su Ruoyu or not. His mind was full of how to use these things. The inexhaustible spiritual spring in the space, the black soil that could grow anything, and the survival rate was 100%, as well as countless martial arts manuals. In the past, Helian Feng didn't have any ambition because he couldn't do it. Even if he had supreme power, in the end, everything would succeed, and he would only be helping others. That's right. Now that he had Su Ruoyu, not only could he be a real man, but he could also have children. The things in Su Ruoyu's hands were enough for him to subvert many things. If he made good use of it, even his cunning father, the emperor, would have to obediently hand over the throne to him. And his brothers. This time, he would take revenge on them one by one. If it wasn't for Yu'er, he would have lost a layer of skin, even if he didn't die after being drugged with so many drugs. Yu'er, you can't tell a third person such a secret in the future. Helian Feng caressed her head worriedly. Actually, you shouldn't have told me such a secret. This will bring about a fatal disaster. If you're not careful, you'll lose your life. Because you are the only person in this world that I can trust. I am willing to share this secret with you. Su Ruoyu felt as if she was soaking in a honey pot. Just based on the fact that Helian Feng had never left her, and didn't even want his life or other women, she wouldn't regret telling him this secret. Helian Feng's heart was filled with gratitude. The two of them hugged each other and consoled each other, as if their feelings for each other had reached a higher level here. I won't let you down. Sooner or later, I will give you a proper identity. Su Ruoyu quickly said. It's my business that I like you. You don't have to do anything more. The marriage alliance between the two countries can't be broken up just like that. As long as you have me in your heart and can't tolerate anyone else, I don't care about that identity. Helianfeng didn't say anything else, but he was thinking in his heart that he had to get rid of that obstacle in the manor as soon as possible. Only a woman like you deserved the best. Only you was worthy of the position of princess consort. What a pair of bitches. You're so lovey-dovey. Tang Gua saw the conversation between the two through the system space. Vertex. Chapter 41-24. After listening to their conversation, Tang Gua recalled the contents of their conversation. Helianfeng was probably going to use the things in Su Ruoyu's space to cause trouble. It wasn't her style to let Helianfeng be in the limelight and have everything go smoothly. With her current status, it wasn't good for her to do anything directly. In that case, she could only use the paper puppets that Big Brother Qi Xiao had helped her refine. She took out 3 paper puppets and dripped a drop of blood onto each paper puppet. Following her will, the 3 paper puppets instantly transformed into 3 people with different appearances. Greetings, Master. Tang Gua nodded. Go to the first prince, second prince and fourth prince respectively. Think of a way to become their trusted aides. In the future, whatever Helianfeng wants to do, help the princes as much as possible. It's best if they can fight to a draw every time. No one can do anything to the other. Yes, Master. Tang Gua still instructed the paper puppet that she had sent out last time to play around in the capital. If it had nothing to do, she would inform the other party when she wanted to cause trouble. Why didn't she arrange a paper puppet beside the emperor? That was because she didn't think it was necessary. As long as these princes fought to a draw, no one could do anything to the other. With the help of her paper puppet, it would be enough to give the emperor a headache. The 3 paper puppets flipped out of the window. Their movements were very nimble, and they disappeared in the blink of an eye. They weren't something that the martial arts experts of this world could compare to. The paper puppets had 2 drawbacks. One was that they could be destroyed by a powerful opponent. However, this possibility was basically eliminated in this world. The second drawback was that when the time limit was up, they would automatically turn into ordinary paper puppets. Yu Book Vault in this world, Tang Gua estimated that these paper puppets could be used for 3 to 5 years. The main reason was that this world didn't have spirit energy to replenish them, so they couldn't extend their lifespan. Helianfeng stayed in the palace for another day and left in a hurry early in the morning. Originally, the current situation was very unfavorable for Helianfeng. However, after learning about Su Ruoyu's secret, Helianfeng was no longer angry. Now everyone was talking about him, saying that he was impotent and slandering him. These were no longer important. Moreover, these rumors could lower his imperial father's guard against him. However, he was afraid that his brothers would harm Yor. After all, Yor was the only woman who could make him a man. Since his father didn't mind this, he could guess his father's intention. Wasn't it because he felt that Yor's body was profitable? However, those brothers wouldn't. They would definitely think of all kinds of ways to make things difficult for Yor, or even take her life. Also, because they knew how much their father valued Yor, they didn't dare to go overboard and cause their father's dissatisfaction. Helianfeng decided to keep a low profile in the future, so that his imperial father wouldn't be on guard against him again. In addition, he also planned to not have any children before he succeeded. Since he could only have Yor, it would be normal for him to not be able to have any children due to his physical condition. Once he made his brothers lose their qualifications to be the heir, he, who had dispelled his father's wariness, only needed to make countless achievements to satisfy his father. In the end, when his imperial father regretted that he did not have an heir, he would have a child with Yor and tell the emperor about this unexpected surprise. Then, he would have a 90% chance of ascending the throne, and he would not have to bear the reputation of forcing the emperor to abdicate. Vertex. Chapter 41-25. On the way back, Helianfeng was thinking about this, and Su Ruoyu was leaning on him, as if she had no bones. The current Su Ruoyu was very satisfied. Previously, She was the only one who carried the secret. Now that Helian Feng was carrying it with her, she felt much more relaxed. However, the two of them didn't know that a piece of news was spreading rapidly in the capital. Prince Ding was impotent, and it was said that he was a natural eunuch. Regarding this, there were many people who gave examples of this rumor. They even talked about what happened during the Lantern Festival, and everyone believed it. As for how it was solved, it had always been a mystery. This rumor was about this mystery. It was said that Su Ruoyu, who was expelled from the Su family, was the one who could make Prince Ding, a natural eunuch, react. There were rumors from the palace that the emperor had arranged for many palace maids to try, but none of them could do it. Only Su Ruoyu could. Even if Su Ruoyu made Helian Feng react and got other palace maids to try, it wouldn't work. She had to go personally. When the rumor spread, young Master Zhang's story was also dug up. Could it be that Su Ruoyu was possessed by some wild ghost or monster? Otherwise, would it be so strange? Yeah. Speaking of which, are the things that Su Ruoyu did really what an unmarried lady should do? I've long felt that something was wrong, but I never thought about it. Now that I think about young Master Zhang's story, I'm suddenly enlightened. It must be Su Ruoyu, this monster. She must have used some method to bewitch Prince Ding. That's right, that's right. The things that Prince Ding has done recently are indeed shocking. I Beidou bookstore in an instant. All the discussions revolved around Su Ruoyu's real identity. Was she the same as the monster in young Master Zhang's story? That monster was a bad person. The citizens of the capital went from discussions to panic. The Su family also knew about this news. The Su sisters felt that Su Ruoyu was either possessed, or she might really be a monster like the rumors said. Lord Su was silent about this for a long time. Then he got someone to release the news. The news was that the Su family indeed felt that Su Ruoyu's personality was very strange. She didn't seem like a daughter of the Su family. It was said that the Su family had found the maids who took care of Su Ruoyu back then. These maids came out and said that Su Ruoyu's temperament had changed suddenly one day, and they could not recognize her anymore. Miss Su had been a gentle lady since she was young, unlike Su Ruoyu, who was dissolute. Exterminate the demons, exterminate the demons. Get rid of that monster Su Ruoyu. The capital can't have a monster like Su Ruoyu. Otherwise, she will definitely endanger everyone. Things developed so quickly. At that time, the princes had a tacit understanding that they did it. No matter what, Su Ruoyu was Helian Feng's treasure. They had to make Su Ruoyu suffer. Even if they could only create some trouble for Helian Feng, they would be very happy. A woman who could make Helian Feng a real man was a threat to them. Don't forget, Helian Feng had military merits. The ministers who were watching from afar in the imperial court couldn't sit still anymore. They all stood out and asked the emperor to deal with this matter. After all, this woman belonged to Prince Ding. Prince Ding wouldn't listen to anything they said. They could only let the emperor, the old man, do it. The emperor was actually very unhappy. Even though Su Ruoyu had some abnormalities, the things she took out were top-notch. Peak. Chapter 41-26. After a few tests, he was sure that although Su Ruoyu was abnormal and had extraordinary abilities, she was not a cultivated monster after all. Otherwise, Su Ruoyu would not have been so embarrassed that day. The nannies in the palace had examined the naked Su Ruoyu for a long time. With such humiliation, if Su Ruoyu was really a monster, she would have eaten people long ago. The emperor thought that Su Ruoyu was not a threat now. He did not know what good things she could take out, so he did not want to kill her for the time being. But because of the officials and the voices of the people outside, if he did not express his opinion, it would be difficult to explain. Late at night, the emperor summoned Helian Feng into the palace. He did not plan to kill Su Ruoyu for the time being. She was still useful now. Moreover, he did not want to fall out with his third son. Now he understood Helian Feng's protection of Su Ruoyu. It would be strange if a man did not protect such a woman. Helian Feng was also very angry about this matter. After being angry, he calmed down. He was worried that he could not find a reason to change Su Ruoyu's identity. It would be strange if he suddenly made Su Ruoyu disappear. If he could use this matter to let Su Ruoyu fake her death and escape, It would be a perfect thing. Helian Feng did not hide and told him his plan. Of course, before this, he also showed some pity to let the emperor know that he could not leave Su Ruoyu. If a person's weakness was exposed to the opponent, it would be fatal. But if his weakness was exposed to his father, the other party would think that he had control of his weakness and would not worry about him. Sure enough, the emperor agreed to Helian Feng's plan with a face full of pity. He also showed that he believed Helian Feng, that Su Ruoyu met a master. 1234. Just like this, Helian Feng went through the emperor's plan to let Su Ruoyu fake her death and escape. The third son is also pitiful. The emperor shook his head and sighed. No wonder the third son did not hesitate to offer the hemostatic medicine, an anti-inflammatory medicine formula. Now I understand that the third son just wants to protect this woman. No matter how good this woman is or how her reputation is, if she can make the third son happy, the third son must be protected. As the emperor's son, Helian Feng actually didn't want his own son to be unable to be a man after being a man for a few times. Wouldn't that be a lifetime of torture? As long as Su Ruoyu didn't do anything to harm Daki or threaten him, he would allow her to exist. Dear host, Su Ruoyu has been arrested. Because all the people in the capital and the prime minister have taken the lead, they must get rid of this monster that will bring trouble to Daki. The emperor had no choice but to agree to punish Su Ruoyu under pressure. Tang Guo wasn't surprised by this result. When she heard about the hype outside, especially the story of Child Zhang, she knew that such a day would come. To the ancients, as long as it was a freak that they could not control, it would be classified as a monster. Those who are not of our race must be killed. And then, the emperor has ordered in front of the courtiers that Su Ruoyu will be punished by burning at the stake. It's not surprising. As we all know, the ancient people preferred to use fire to kill demons. It's called ashes to ashes. Dear host, there's more to come, the system said excitedly. Tang Guo was curious. Who is the surprise? Could it be the prime minister? However, she felt that something was not right. With the prime minister's level of sly old fox, he shouldn't have stepped forward to add more crimes to a woman. The apex. Chapter 41:27. Even if Su Ruoyu framed his son, he would probably do something in secret. Otherwise, he would have almost forgotten about the spies hidden so deeply in the palace. Especially the group of meat pigeons raised in the prime minister's manor. They were so fat that they almost couldn't fly. It's Prince Zhong. The system said, haha, there must be something the host didn't think of, right? Prince Zhong already found out who framed Princess Lu Guang, and now hates Su Ruoyu to the point of grinding his teeth. Of course he would think of ways to torture her. Moreover, Prince Zhong also suggested that this monster is full of tricks. Her identity should be checked every time she is paraded through the streets. When the time comes to execute her, it will also be checked. If that's the case, Su Ruoyu will inevitably be thrown eggs when she is paraded through the streets. Although Prince Zhong was so vigilant, Tang Guo didn't think that Su Ruoyu wouldn't be able to escape in the end. But until the very end, Helian Feng wouldn't dare to replace Su Ruoyu. He would most likely think of his own method. It was unavoidable that they would be paraded through the streets. The emperor agreed to Prince Zhong's request, because after Prince Zhong's request, the majority of the officials agreed. If he didn't satisfy this small request, who knew what these people would think? At that time, it would arouse suspicion, and it would be very difficult for the third son to replace her. Prince Zhong's mood improved, but he wanted to immediately strangle Su Ruoyu to death. If she hadn't met Princess Ding, his daughter would have been ruined. If she had been drugged, his daughter would have married that ignorant and incompetent brat. That brat's identity couldn't be casually killed. Fortunately, on the day of Su Ruoyu's parade, there were already commoners waiting to watch. When the prison carriage holding her passed by, all kinds of eggs and rotten vegetables were thrown at Su Ruoyu. Prince Zhong even specially ordered for the people in the manor to throw eggs at her. After all, the eggs hurt and made her look very miserable. They were all rotten eggs. He had people find these rotten eggs a few days ago. Su Ruoyu was paraded through the streets for 3 days. Every day she was beaten black and blue. If she didn't drink spiritual spring water every day, she wouldn't have been able to hold on. Helian Feng secretly came to see her every day. His face was full of heartache. He said that he had already arranged for her to change her identity. He also said that he wished he could suffer this pain himself. But for the future, he could only endure it. Su Ruoyu craved power for the first time. When she was smashed by those eggs and rotten leaves, a thought appeared in her heart. She must use all of her abilities to help Helian Feng ascend to the throne. Only by sitting in that high place would no one dare to treat her like this. This was ancient times. She needed power. She craved power. On the day of Su Ruoyu's execution, Helian Feng was already prepared, so it was easy for him to swap her out. The person who was burned to death was a death row inmate he had killed. Su Ruoyu, who had escaped, leaned against the carriage. Her body was still sore. If it wasn't for the spirit spring, she would have died. At this time, the carriage was heading towards the border. The next time she came back, it would be from the border. At that time, she would be the general's adopted daughter. Helian Feng was very secretive, and the princes really didn't notice. At present, those paper dolls had yet to find an opportunity to become the prince's most trusted subordinates. However, in the following period of time, he should be able to. Once Su Ruoyu left, it would be the stage for the princes and Helian Feng to fight. Sure enough, Su Ruoyu had secretly contacted Helian Feng less than 2 days after she left. She even left some of the crops in her space for Helian Feng to try and get people to plant them. A few paper dolls who had already infiltrated the princes reported this matter and said that the crops seemed to be unusual. Since Helian Feng valued them, the princes didn't dare to be careless. They asked the paper dolls to keep an eye on them and think of a way to get some back. The paper dolls really did get some back when no one was paying attention. The princes asked people to plant these crops one after another. Tang Guo recognized this crop. Wasn't it the potato that was essential for transmigrating? After it was planted, it could be harvested in 3 months. More than 2 months had passed. Before Helian Feng had time to rejoice, the princes entered the palace to present the new crops they planted to the emperor. In fact, they couldn't wait and were afraid that Helian Feng would beat them to it. So they brought it forward. Although the fruits were small, they tasted really good. If they waited until the day of the palace banquet, they might not have the upper hand. The emperor was puzzled. Why did his sons plant the same crops and present them on the same day? Before he could feel puzzled, Helian Feng also entered the palace and presented potatoes. Helian Feng's expression was ugly. At this time he didn't know what to say. It seems like it's a coincidence. The people under us all found the same crops, the second prince said with a fake smile. Helian Feng clenched his fists. Was it possible? Peak. Chapter 41-28. The credit that should have belonged to Helian Feng alone was divided equally among the brothers. The emperor would definitely be curious if one of them took it out, and would think that it was an amazing crop. No matter how amazing the crop was, its rarity would be greatly reduced when several people took it out at the same time. When he left the palace, Helian Feng's face was extremely cold. He had offered the potatoes to the emperor in advance, and not during the palace banquet, because something else was going to happen on that day. When the time came, his credit for presenting the gift would be greatly reduced. By presenting the gift in advance, he would have more weight in the emperor's heart. When the time came, the emperor might even help him a little more when he went out to solve the problem in his residence. The other princes were in a particularly good mood. Compared to Helian Feng, who left the palace with a dark face, their faces were full of smiles, which made Helian Feng panic. He didn't know why, but these brothers were very capable. Every time he wanted to do something, they would always give him a heavy blow. Every time, he had planned it perfectly. Could it be that they had joined forces? But the news he had secretly received was that although the friction between these brothers was small, it was impossible for them to join forces for everything. After Helian Feng went back and arranged for people to investigate, he found that these people all had capable people helping them. No wonder their style of doing things had changed. However, no matter how Helian Feng investigated, he couldn't find out the details of these people. He only knew that these people were found by his brothers, who had a good eye for heroes. Helian Feng had no choice but to suffer in silence. Fortunately, he had prepared a gift for the palace banquet. He guaranteed that this gift was something that the other brothers couldn't present. Before Su Ruoyu left, she had given him the prescription for this medicine, so that he could give it to the emperor when he had the chance. Su Ruoyu did this to help Helian Feng, and to make him the emperor. Secondly, it was for herself, to make herself more important in the emperor's heart. The current Su Ruoyu was already the great general's adopted daughter, Yun Nua. In order to not be pointed at as Su Ruoyu by outsiders, Su Ruoyu had worked hard these few months to turn herself into a real noble lady. She had learned etiquette, manners, walking, sitting posture, and she had learned them all very seriously. After all, she was going to help Helian Feng become the emperor. If Helian Feng had feelings, then she would be the future empress. Naturally, in terms of etiquette, he could not be mocked by others. As for whether Helian Feng would let her become the empress, she felt that it was impossible. Helian Feng was so affectionate towards her. Just because of his deep feelings for her, he had to bear a lot of infamy. The people outside all said that Helian Feng was impotent, and even gave her the crime of being a monster. These ancient people were indeed very ignorant. It was clearly Helian Feng, who was unwilling to touch those women. Because he didn't like those women, he didn't want to touch them. Wasn't it normal to have no reaction to someone he didn't like? Su Ruoyu never thought that there was anything wrong with her. She would only react to one person. Helian Feng was a prince. That time he must have been schemed against. The rumors outside were probably spread by other princes. The purpose was to drag Helian Feng, Prince Ding, into the quagmire, and put an end to the possibility of him becoming the emperor. They didn't want Helian Feng to be the emperor, but she insisted on making Helian Feng the emperor. She had left a large pile of martial arts manuals for Helian Feng. In just 1 or 2 years, Helian Feng would be able to nurture many experts, right? Vertex. Chapter 41-29. She also took a lot of the spiritual spring from the space for Helian Feng when she left. After taking so much, the water level of the spiritual spring had indeed dropped by 1/3. But Su Ruoyu did not feel any heartache. Helian Feng was infatuated with her, so it was all worth it. As long as Helian Feng did not let her down, she was willing to share these things with him. At this time, Su Ruoyu had already set off from the border for many days. In fact, she had only stayed for a few days from the capital to the border. She had only met General Yin. When Helian Feng was planning, General Yin had spread the news that he had adopted a daughter, Yun Nua, at the border. General Yin had no wife or children, so it was not strange for him to adopt a daughter. In order to not be suspected, he had even found someone to disguise herself as him. She wore a veil and delivered gifts to him twice, so that everyone would understand that he had adopted a daughter. When Su Ruoyu went to the border, she was riding at top speed. When she returned, she was as General Yun's daughter, so she could not be that fast. She staggered back to General Yun's residence in the capital, when it was close to the palace banquet. General Yun's residence was sparsely populated, and there were no old or young people. This was also the reason why Helian Feng had this idea. When Su Ruoyu returned, she became the master of the residence. At this time, Su Ruoyu's behavior revealed the style of a lady from a noble family. Her daily practice in the carriage was not in vain. Although her behavior was very different from before, in order not to arouse suspicion, she had specially tattooed a mole under the corner of her eye. Yes, it was a tattooed mole, not a drawn one. These ancient people probably did not know what a tattoo was, right? Fortunately, she had learned a little before. Tattooing a small mole was not a problem. However, she did not want to be surrounded by people, so she would still wear a veil when she went out. Su Ruoyu's figure now was much thinner than before. Her waist was so slim that it could only be held with one hand. When she walked outside, not many people would think that she was Su Ruoyu. Not only did she learn etiquette, but she also learned the 4 arts. Fortunately, the things in the space helped her a lot. In a short time, she had learned the superficial knowledge of these things. Even the superficial knowledge was enough for her. At least now, when she was invited to attend the Flower Appreciation Festival, she could casually write a few words and draw a few flowers. Although it wasn't particularly top-notch, it could at least attract people's attention and make them understand that she was a true daughter of a noble family. As for the poems, Tsuruoyu did not intend to copy the ones in her memory. It wasn't good to be too stunning. After reaching the pinnacle of prosperity, there was bound to be a decline. It was not a good thing to attract attention. She would just be an ordinary young lady from a wealthy family and silently assist Helian Feng. It was fine as long as the emperor knew how good she was. If someone dared to provoke her, she would not be polite. After all, she was now General Yun's daughter. Dear host, Tsuruoyu has learned to play the pig to eat the tiger. Ever since Tsuruoyu returned, the system had been monitoring her non-stop. However, Tsuruoyu does look like a different person now. It seems that she really suffered a lot last time. Dear host, Tsuruoyu has given those martial arts manuals to Helian Feng. In another 2 years, there will be many experts in Helian Feng's hands. It's fine. After Big Brother Crimson Firmament heard about this, he sent me a lot of paper-cut puppets. He even upgraded them and extended their usage time to 10 years. The system did not notice this. Vertex. Chapter 4130. Actually, when the host was free, he would go to the group to chat. He was quite busy in this world. He had to monitor the emperor, monitor Helian Feng, monitor the princes and Tsuruoyu. Of course, he couldn't relax when it came to the host's cutie. The system couldn't help but look at the paper cut in the system space. It was a little dizzy. One of the warehouses was already full. Wasn't he spoiling his sister too much? Brother Zian heard that Tsuruoyu's methods were endless. He even made all kinds of antidotes for me. For this reason, he didn't hesitate to ask everyone in the group to help gather herbs from the mortal world. After all, the herbs from the celestial world contained immortal energy. Even if it was diluted 100 times, ordinary people would be in danger of exploding after eating it. Why did Zian like to refine herbs from the mortal world? That was the reason. She needed it. The system thought, does the host not know how to make herbs? If not, then transmigrating through so many worlds would have been a waste. Wasn't it because she had a brother at home who spoiled her and made her lazy? System. Dear host, did you notice something? What? System. You've fallen. You've become corrupt. Tangua. I can't let down my brother's good intentions, right? They were kind enough to make these things for me. Am I supposed to stiffly say that I can do it? I don't want you guys. That'll hurt their feelings. System. Excuses. Excuses. You've fallen. Tangua. Tongzi, you've changed too. System. Host, don't talk nonsense. My feelings for you will never change. Moreover, I'm a system. It's impossible for me to change. Sob sob sob. I'm the host. How can you say that I've changed? I'm so sad. Tangua. Tongzi, haven't you noticed that you've been speaking in Lotus language recently? Who did you learn that from? I'm guessing it's 111. She thought for a while before she figured it out. When two indecent Tongzi got together, it would be strange if they didn't learn bad things. If 222 wasn't so busy with work, it would probably be led astray by them. System. Since when was he speaking in Lotus language? There was no love in this world. The host actually misunderstood him. He didn't want to talk to her for a second. Is there anything new in 111 recently? Is my brother Wild's world over? It has already ended. Now Brother Wild is in the apocalypse. Oh, are you busy killing zombies? Tangua felt that he should be killing zombies. No, he might have become a zombie. I didn't kill any zombies. Then what are you doing? Tangua was curious. Don't tell me you've become a zombie boss? That's not bad, I've been one before. System, that's right. You even built a zombie country, the kind that everyone in the world is envious of. The system continued to deny. No, he didn't turn into a zombie. Then what's wrong? He transmigrated into a cat. According to 111, it seems that the cat's owner was very good to it before the apocalypse. However, after the apocalypse, the cat's owner carried it and ran everywhere. However, because it didn't awaken any abilities, it died in the end. Before he died, he even told it to run away and find a safe place to hide. Later, this cat mutated and even found its original enemy. After killing the enemy, although it didn't have to worry about food and water anymore, it still missed the days of being a poop picker. Its strong desire gave birth to an obsession. That's why Brother Wild received this mission. 111 said that Brother Wild has the mentality of a hunter. It felt that this was a little interesting and wanted to see what it would be like to be a cat. Peak. Chapter 41:31. Tangle was very curious. How is it now? With Big Brother Wild around, the poop picker doesn't have to die. It can be said that it can do whatever it wants in the apocalypse. Anyone who comes up with ideas is killed by its claws. 111 said that ever since its host turned into a cat, its temper has become much worse. The system laughed. Other than finding food and protecting the poop picker, it's still quite relaxed. Host, your Big Brother Wild hates it when the poop picker touches his head. However, the poop picker likes to touch his head and can't be killed. I'm dying of laughter just listening to it. How pitiful. My brother probably regrets this mission. Isn't that so? The system laughed out loud. It suddenly thought of something and said, "Oh right, Big Host." 111 said that after this world mission ends, it will buy me an installation package. What installation package? Little system, can you still hold an installation package? Even if you're a system, it should be a very old version. Is it compatible? Do you have enough storage? Tangle couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. Many old machines were like this. They couldn't hold the most advanced installation package. For example, the system of flip phones and smartphones. System. Big Host, don't look down on me. After I get the installation package, I'll install it for you to see. That brat 111 said that although I don't have a serial number, the system is as advanced as the Space Control Department. Also, I can fuse powers to level up. They can only rely on the host to complete missions. Speaking of which, I'm much more advanced than those serial numbers. Okay. You're the most advanced. None of the systems he had met so far could fight. Then what kind of installation package will 111 give you? System. 111 didn't say what kind of installation package it was. He only said that this installation package would give me a surprise when the time comes. It shouldn't be something useless. After all, 111 said that he could only upgrade to the level where he could buy this installation package after the current mission is over. Then when you install it, remember to show it to me. Of course. After it's installed, I'll show it to Big Host immediately. Of course, good things should be shared with Big Host first. Sigh. Young master, why are you sighing? Are you bored in the residence? Do you want to go to the tea house to listen to stories? Ji Changqiu lazily leaned back in his chair and looked up. Are there any new stories in the tea house recently? That's not the case. Ever since the popularity of young Master Zhang's story died down, there hasn't been a single story that stands out. Although there have been many good stories published in the past few months, and the stories themselves are no less interesting than young Master Zhang's. It's a pity that good stories are hard to come by. Once the popularity has passed, no one likes to listen to them anymore. Ji Changqiu asked, "What's Helian Feng up to recently?" There hasn't been any movement. Recently, Prince Ding has been very free, and often participates in some poetry and flower appreciation tea parties. Ji Changqiu narrowed his eyes. Have you been in contact with Su Ruiyu? Yes, with the old fox prime minister as her father. How could he not know that Su Ruiyu was still alive? There is no direct contact. The two of them seem to be very careful this time. However, I have a feeling that Prince Ding is planning something. Ji Changqiu nodded. Keep an eye on him. Yes. Is there any movement from Princess Ding's side? That's not the case. It could be that the story is no longer fresh. Princess Ding also doesn't go to the tea house anymore. Vertex. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.